Uprisers, hi, it is Trisha LaCroix once again with Sacred Uprising Institute and Conference, Awakening the Consciousness of Infinite Love. And today it is my series, and it's called Calling in the One. I do have a special guest today, which I'm excited to share with you. Her name is Candise, and if you were watching the video earlier this week, she did a video of the sanctity of marriage. So before we go ahead and start this video, I wanted to share that some of what I'm going to be talking about is within this book. It's going to be based on practical Kabbalah about creation. I've been talking to you about whatever you want to call in the one, whatever the one means to you. That is a creation. It's something that you must become before you can call it into your life. You have to become the vibration of whatever it is that you desire to have in your life. And we've talked about detachment. We've talked about becoming love, or becoming, if you want a successful career, becoming success, becoming whatever it is you want. We talked about the covenant, being faithful to whatever it is you want to call in, and I did that in writing a love letter a year before I met my beloved, and writing that love letter with intent, writing and speaking about what I wanted, and when it did manifest in my life in the form of Charles, as we now know him as, that when that happened, he is actually everything that I wrote. It is about creation, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. It's called Hest, and Hest is a Hebrew translated for loving kindness or love. Hest is central to the Jewish ethics and for theology. So before we jump into it, I'm just waiting. I see Candise is watching. I'm just waiting for her to jump on. Let me just bring her on right. Let's see if I can bring her on right quick. So Candise, can you go ahead and, there we go. Got it. Okay. I'm bringing Candise on because a couple weeks ago when I did this video, hi Candise.
Hi.
So a couple of weeks ago when I did my video, I talked about the letter that I wrote to my beloved. I wrote him a love letter, and I want to say again, I wrote this over a year before I actually met Charles. And I gave it to him for Valentine's Day this year. And in it, I talked about our love. I talked about the path that led me to him. I talked about how I wanted this co-creation of our relationship to look like and to be. And it was a very long letter. I have not read it live just because it's about 8 pages long. I can get a little wordy. And we brought Bliss on, and Bliss wrote her letter for her to call in her beloved. I do believe I have this very strong, it's like a covenant. And I actually have covenants that I make with the Creator. I keep them in here. So for me, they're holy. It's putting out there, look, this is what I want, and this is what I'm committing to doing, and how I'm going to receive it. And I feel that's very important. So when Bliss and I did that video, you had commented that you did something similar. And I would love, and folks, I'm bringing these people on because I want you to see it works. And I want their testimonies to go, look, I did this, you do this. Because we all want, it's our birthright to have our heart's desires. It is our birthright. It is, if we have a desire within our heart, it's because the source of all that is has placed it within our hearts, because it is something he wants to have fulfilled through us, so he can experience it through us. So this is one of those steps to do that. So without any further delay, Candise, please share what you did in relation to this.
Hi, Trisha. Thanks for having me back again.
Yes, absolutely.
And I just want to say the work that you're doing, I think it's beautiful. And I think that it's so powerful to really be claiming the power that we have in becoming that. And so with the path that I walk, like I really work with the principle of grace. And so what had happened for me was I had left a relationship, and as I was becoming single again, I was preparing myself mentally for what being single normally was like for me, which was very unpleasant. And I was thinking, like you're going to be lonely and you're going to want to avoid your friends that are in relationships because that's going to feel painful. And what happened, the way that this first started was I actually was around a friend of mine who was in a new relationship. So it was new love, and it was very, when two people are newly in love, everybody can feel it. And in the past, that's something that I really would have resisted, being single, because it would have just made me aware of how sad I was about it. But it was the first time that I just loved the feeling of being around love. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to spend more time with these two. And instead of resisting this, I'm going to put myself in that energy as much as I can. And then I started reading this book, Love Poems from God, and reading about these passionate relationships that these mystics had with their connection with their idea of what the divine was. And I just realized I had this moment, I wasn't thinking about, I'm going to make him appear, which I think is a fantastic intention. But at the time, that wasn't my thought. At the time I was thinking, I keep wanting to experience this love, and I keep wanting to experience this romance and being in love. And I keep waiting for it to happen outside of me. And I don't like the way that feels. Right. I need to know that I can tap into that, whether that person is in front of me or not. And so what I did was I actually created a second email address for my beloved. And I gave it the name for him. And what I would do is on the nights when I was really longing to feel love or to feel romance, is I would write these love letters to my beloved. And then I would put it out there, and I'd feel like I'd really sent a love letter to the energy of what this beloved was. And then I would wait a few days or a week or so, and then I would just feel that compulsion where, again, I would start to feel lonely in my human. And I would log in and I would read this email that I had received as though I was the beloved. And then I would write back to me. So then I would receive these love letters from my beloved. So it was like this back and forth pen pal relationship I had happening throughout me. But what happened as I was doing that is I really started, there was a few things that happened, was I really started connecting to this energy of divinity as being a beloved, and really started to feel like this is an energy that can settle into a human. This is an energy that I can be able to recognize in a human. And so I started really having faith that I could experience that love here on earth. And then the other thing is that I really started falling in love with myself, because I'd be taking these times where I was looking at myself through the eyes of Source, and I was able to just see myself in this light of beauty that I was never able to see myself in before. And I really just feel like there was something that shifted for me during this time in my life. And I went beyond that. I would go on dates with the divine, and I would see Mother Nature and see it as courting gifts as the divine. I really made it my mission to experience romance and experience this falling in love from within. And for me, it wasn't a very long process. It was about 3 months. And then I met the divine shining through my beloved. So
what's beautiful is that when you're having that relationship with the divine, that you end up falling in love with the divine, and then you recognize the divine within somebody else. And you're already in love with that godlike essence of that person.
Yes. And it was very, I don't even know what the word is. I wouldn't say awkward, but it was a very interesting experience the night that I met, who's now my husband. Because I remember looking at him and talking to him and just thinking, I already know him.
Right.
And I don't know if he knows that I know him. I don't know if he remembers that yet. And I already know that we're going to get married and it's going to be great, but we're in the human, so we have to do the whole my name's Candice, my name's Alejandro, what do you like to do? And I just felt like, well, if we want to, we could just skip through all of this and walk down the aisle today if we wanted to. It was like you said, I knew him right away.
Right.
I just knew him.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a song, and it says something to the effect of, it's talking about being in love with the divine, being in love with whatever label you want to put on, be in love with the creator, be in love with in love. I'm not saying loving. I'm saying in love with
Yes.
God.
Yes.
Being in love with all that is, with infinite love.
Yes.
And when that happens, there's a shift that happens within you. And this song talks about, I need you more than I need the air within my lungs to breathe. And that's how I feel, that you can take everything away, but you cannot take away my devotion, this infinite love that not only the divine has for me, but that I have for the divine. It is that beautiful infinity 8 that it's the same. It's the same. And so when we want to love ourselves, that's why we say, what I say, if you want to know God's love, you've got to love yourself. It's because of that infinity 8. It's because it's the same love. It's the same flow. It is creation in motion. It's love in motion. It is infinite. It's the love of the divine, and it flows through all of us. And you know, my guide, one of my guides, his name is Thoth, and he told me before I met Charles, he said something to the effect of, don't you think that I could go to different universes and pull down what you desire to have in your beloved? And I heard it, and I actually have the recording, because I always record when I channel. And so when I look back now and see everything that I have, I am very aware that it was tailor-made for me. But it wouldn't have been tailor-made if I wasn't standing in my truth, if I wasn't true to who I am and standing within that light, because that would send out different vibrations throughout the universe. And how can you create from that?
Yeah, no, what a powerful message.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful at the time.
Yes, yeah.
I had put stipulations on it, and I had, tried to put it in a box going, yeah, this is what it's got to look like. But thank God it's never, I love when the universe gives you something that is far beyond, it's what you wanted, but it's far beyond what you could have ever conceived how it was going to look like. I love the magic.
You know what? Yes. And it's very interesting because, like I said, with the path of grace that I work with, I don't work with manifesting specifics often.
Right.
Usually what it is it's about connecting to the divine and allowing the grace to appear as whatever grace would appear as. So I was really, when I was doing this process with the beloved, I was really focusing on that energy, that vibration, and just feeling into knowing and that falling in love. But it's interesting because I remember saying, like, it wasn't a requirement, but I was like, you know what, I just feel like I'd really like to fall in love with a Virgo carpenter. And everybody was like, a Virgo carpenter, where did that come from? It was just like, it's just what I wanted. And so when I met my husband the first night, I asked him what his sign was, because there was a certain sign that I had just had a history of not having prosperous relationships with.
I have one of those too.
Yeah, and I was like, please don't say that sign, please don't say that. And he said, I'm a Virgo. And I thought, oh, right. But he was an aspiring actor, and he worked with children. He lived in New York at the time. And so I thought, oh, that's cool. Well, then about 6 months later, when he immigrated to where I was living, he needed work, and there wasn't acting work at the time. And so my friend's partner, he hired him to work in construction, and he started doing his training to become a carpenter. And I thought, wish you're a Virgo carpenter. This is
right.
So even without like writing it down and being like, he needs to be this, and he needs to be that, I just had that as like, wouldn't that be neat, as a desire that was there. And then, like you said, like to see how it shows up. Like, he didn't show up as a Virgo carpenter, but then all of a sudden he was, and I was just like, wow, Right,
and it's interesting how it takes different forms. I've shared this, that my guide showed me that the man that I would be with would wear Converse shoes. I mean, I won't say would wear. They showed me Converse shoes and said it had to do with him, and I'm like, what does that mean? And they showed me the logo with the star, but what was written on the sides was blurred out, and I never thought to look at what was written on the sides. And so I was looking for a man with Converse shoes. Well, when I met Charles, I realized he wore Converse, but different, not the typical tennis shoe, but different, the same brand, the flat soles. And what was interesting is that one day we were sitting there, and this girl walked up, and she was wearing Converse shoes and high tops. And he goes, oh, you're wearing Chuck Taylor's. That's my name. And I'm like, what? Wait a second, what did you just say? And I asked him later about it. He goes, babe, they're called Chuck Taylor's, which his name, and I was like, They are. And so then I looked, and sure enough, the blurred part of the logo that my guides had blurred out says Chuck Taylor, and that's his name. I just call him Charles.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
so, you know, I thought in my mind that this guy was going to wear either red or black Converse shoes, but when in all actuality, they were telling me his name. So
his name,
yeah,
yes.
And it's just like with financial abundance. If you if you think that the only way for you to get financial abundance is through your career, you're really restricting the universe, because it can come through many, many, many different ways.
Yes, absolutely. There's a line from the Bible, God's grace is my sufficiency. And that was, that's been my big power line throughout the last 14 years of my ministry. Has just been whenever a need appears, rather than being like, okay, well, I'm going to manifest it this way, or I'm going to pray that this situation, I just go to like, God's grace is my sufficiency. And the way that it shows up, there's something about that, just opening it up to the mystery. Yes. And I've experienced that with abundance as well. It's amazing, where it's like, I don't need to look at the numbers in the bank account as much as I need to look at where I'm at vibrationally with my relationship to trusting and being infinitely supplied.
You know, you brought up the Bible, so I want to tap into this. You know, the Bible also states that, you know, if you have the faith of a grain of mustard seed, you know, you will see these amazing things happen in your life. But sometimes we constrict ourselves. I think part of that is restricting ourselves to how it's supposed to form. So our faith is based on, it has to look this way, rather than like what you said, God's grace is efficiency. So it could be in any way, say, this is what I need, however it presents itself. I've had people say that about calling in the one, that they've like, I don't care if it's male, female, whatever it is, the one, however it shows up. And I believe that that's, you just open yourselves up to that. And it's part of what I'm going to talk about today is, you know, part of Kabbalah is called Hest, and it's the infinite love of the creator within the creation motion, and how once it starts with you, when you are truly living in Hest, that others can't help but fall into it as well, and that you start creating. It is the part of creation that the creator did not finalize, because like we say, we're co-creators. That's our part. That's our part of it, where he was making us partners within creation. So he took us so far, and now we can use Hest, this infinite flow of love, to create everything from that. And that's how you can call in the one, by becoming the flow of creation.
That is beautiful, and that is so powerful. Yes, absolutely. I 100% believe that. Yes.
And I love, because you did it. You wrote it. You know, and
one of back and forth too.
Yeah, it was back and forth.
Those poles, yes.
And I bet it opened parts of yourself that you never even knew existed.
Yes, and that's, like I said, that's how I was able to tap into this idea of loving myself, because before that it was very self-helpish and trying to conceptualize it with my mind. But when I would take myself and sit in the position of the beloved and write the letter back to me as the beloved,
right,
I all of a sudden was able to feel into and see myself from this highest perspective, a way that I couldn't ever conceptualize myself before.
Wow. There's, you know, we use our words, our human language, which I think is so restrictive to really what's out there for us. And even the word love is just a sliver to what it means and contains. And the thing is that there is no word for it. So that's why we come into light language, which is the language of the universe. And but many of us don't know light language. We know the feeling of something, the grandness of it, the scale of it, to the best of our ability, but the words don't match what it means. So when we say love, and this goes back to what you said, this is amazing. So with love, if you define it saying, I want love, but you're defining it by how you know what love feels like, you're short selling yourself, because there's so much more to receive and to give with love. They say that you, like, the Hebrew letters are actually the holy tongue. And so when we have these words, and I believe that with the Hebrew letters, that it's actually the blueprint of the universe, how it was written, and that's why it's so holy. But when you take that and you go into those letters, go into the flow of the letters, go into even the way like a Yahweh, how it sounds, and there is creation within those words. And while we may not know how to speak the language, we can tap into the feeling of it and create whatever we want in our lives, even based on the little that we know, based on our language. So I want to say, and can you stay with me for a little bit, or do you need to jump off?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
No, absolutely.
Okay. So they say, and like I said, I'm going off of practical Kabbalah. I've studied Kabbalah for a couple years because one of my guides, Metatron and Enoch, who are both the same, told me that I needed to start studying it, and I'm starting to launch more studies into it. So I have many different books, the Zohar, the Torah, I have many books on it. So when we become with Hest, it is, it's the flow of love, and it is being infused with the cosmic flow. So when you become love, so whatever you was, so calling in the one, again, this is for a romantic relationship, the beloved for me. So I had to become whatever it is I wanted, which was love. So I had to create love within me. I had to love myself. I had to feel the love of God. I had to be not just love, but in love with that flows around me. And that is a cosmic flow. And we will, with that flow, we can create anything that we desire. Anything that we desire. And biblically, it says, God gives you the desires of your heart. I don't believe it's so where I thought it was, growing up, that meant that if I wanted a bike, God would give me a bike. Yeah. So it's that God gives you, he puts within you your desires. And if he gives you those desires, don't you think he wants to give them to you? He wants to experience them under the label of Trisha. He wants to experience those desires under the label of Candice. And that's why I'm not saying that the one has to be the beloved, because I know that there are some friends of mine that are like, I'm not interested in calling in the one, like a beloved. Yes. I'm interested in learning to love myself right now. I'm wanting a career, my career to be successful. So that's why I'm leaving that open, but you can create that through the flow of love, which is how creation, that is the flow of creation. That is actually the song and the rhythm and the imprint and the blueprint and everything that the universe is love. And if you start with love, you can create anything. And I love the fact that God loved us, the creator. I don't like calling him God. All that is, gave us the opportunity to co-create with him, that he took us so far and said, okay, I've created you the mountains, I've created you the trees, this beautiful universe and multi-universes and an omni-universe, and I created this body for you. I created everything, but now you get to create your life.
Yes. And absolutely. And I think the thing that's so cool too is when you're talking about that, once you're in that vibration of love, how all things are possible. And the way that I really looked at it, like when you were deciphering the difference between recognizing the desire but not connecting it to like, oh, I want to have a bike. For me, what it's always been is it's like, well, if I think I want to fall in love, or if I think I want to be successful, or I think I want money, it's like, what is that? What's the essence beneath that finite form that I'm connecting it to? Because if the essence is abundance, or if the essence is love, or if the essence is, excitement and joy, well, to me, really, that desire is there because it's the desire for me to know my God self, my source self at a deeper level. Because really, when I am connected to the spark of me that's one with source, there is nothing that's lacking.
That's right.
So that desire that's put there is a reminder that there is space for me to fill source in here. And so when I go and I connecting to the abundance that lives within me and let go of the story about whatever I'm lacking in the moment, and I tap into abundance inside, then all of a sudden that pretend little story that was happening outside of me, it goes away because I don't need it anymore, because I've remembered that I am infinite. That was just there as a tool to wake me up to access my source self at a deeper level. And so this desire for love that we have, I think that that's what it is that the more we really call in that love within, it's calling us to the highest degree of who we are as source. And then it can't help but come to us in the outside, because like I love that the way you're describing that it magnetizes. It's just all of a sudden like a love magnet.
Right. It is a love magnet. And it's amazing what you just said, because it's what actually that the creator said to me. He said, your mission is love. He finally told me, I begged for years, what is my mission? What is my mission? He goes, your mission is love. However you want to create it, that's up to you, and I will bless it. And that's what, if we go into, if you say, I want a boyfriend, let's say, if you say, that's what I want. So what is it that's okay, that's not the root of it. What is it really that you want? So you want love? Okay, got it. You want love. You already have it within. So let's grow it from what you have within. And one of the things I did, I started acknowledging the love for my children, the love for my pets, the love from I felt the sun shining on my shoulders, the love of, you know, where I live. I started loving my city more, the people that I walked around with more. You start taking that, whatever that is, the core of it from that's within, and you start appreciating it, because you can't create unless you're in gratitude. That gratitude is one of the highest vibrations of the universe. You have that, and love. If you take love and gratitude, you combine them and you put that cosmic flow, it can turn the world on its axis, and you can create anything that you want. But you've got to do it with gratitude, acknowledging it, that it's all around you, and individually letting it know, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you can create anything from that.
Absolutely. And so, you know, the priestess that trained me, one of the things that she would say, the way she worded it, I loved, is she'd say, grind away at the tool of gratitude, grind away at the tool of gratitude. And I was like, okay. And then, you know, when I was reading a book on Ho'oponopono, and the author was describing, you know, this idea that we know in quantum physics, that there is nothing that's solid, that everything is vibrating atoms and energy. So that even the chair in front of you, even the elevator, that it all has this vibrational consciousness. And he was talking about how he would bless the chairs at the conference that he was going to give. He'd go around and connect to each one of them. He'd bless the elevator. And I remember being in that space when I was really in this process of falling in love with the divine, where there really was nothing that I wouldn't connect to in love. Like, it's easy to connect to a cherry blossom when it's in bloom, but it was like the seat on the bus that I was sitting on, you know, the muddy sidewalk that I was walking on. Like, it is all the expression of this divine source that is the universe.
That's right. That's right. They say that those who are truly within that expression. So I would view myself as within that expression. I would view, like what you're saying, that you are truly in that expression. That people that are within that expression can't help. I mean, it invokes it in others. And that is it creates it in others, and it will transform other people's lives if they allow it to. So it is, and that is the true form of, just like when you get to know the creator, it invokes it within me. And so we, as his, you know, his breath, or you know, I like to say I'm but a feather on the breath of God, so others may know of his presence. It will invoke it into somebody else, so they get in touch with their true essence as well.
Yes, and I was taught the exact same thing. The first person that I ever studied who was a mystic, so that's what he would tell all of his students, is he would say, you just tend to your consciousness, and the higher your consciousness rises, the more you're going to be a presence that rises the consciousnesses around you without even having to teach anything. Just by your presence alone, that it elevates, it calls the energy of others to elevate, to contact their God self.
Wow. Yeah, isn't that beautiful? We can absolutely be divine tools of his love just by being us and doing our work. And it's in our quiet time. It's in those quiet moments where I do my work, that you do your work. It's not on the video. The video is an expression of what I've learned, but my work is off camera when I'm alone. That's where I go do my inner work.
Yes, and I've heard you say it on a few of your live feeds, and I love how you differentiate that. This is like the inspiring stuff that we get to listen to remind us, but that we have to actually put in the work and implement the tools in our lives in order to see the changes.
Right.
And that was a huge shift for me when I was very young. And when I was like a late teen, I would read a bunch of inspirational books, but I wasn't implementing any of it.
Right.
So nothing was really changing except I was getting inspired and then falling back down. But once I dedicated and once I stepped onto this path and dedicated myself to these tools in the challenging times and in the pleasurable times, that's when everything shifted. That's when the big change happened.
Right. It's very easy to go, whether we, people will come to me, they want me to give them a reading, and I call it a monkey show. I don't like doing readings. It's not what I do. But it's very easy for people to go, hey, I want a reading. I want an astrology reading. I want a psychic reading, whatever it may be, for you to tell me what's going to happen. But the challenge comes, and we all want that, but the challenge comes where we go, you know what? I can have somebody tell me what's going to happen, or I can create it. So
Yes.
What is it that I truly want? Let me know myself well enough to know what it is that I want. And then now I'm going to create it. Now, the path to get there, maybe I want to know, okay, are there some blocks that I need to know about, or things like that somebody can like read into to, help me with. But I know I need to do my inner work so that I can create it, because it's sort of like if there's a difference in, like, if mom and dad, like, you inherit a bunch of money from mom and dad, you didn't work for it, you don't know how to use it, you don't know how to prepare yourself for it. But when you make the money yourself and you put in the work, you have a better understanding on what you need to do to be successful and to protect it and to help others, because you've been at the low points. You've not been spoon-fed. You know what others need, and you can be more generous, and you can keep the flow of financial abundance going through many people. So, and that's not giving anybody that's got an inheritance right on, but I'm trying to make a point here. So it's the same way with us co-creating our universe, or going to a psychic and having them just tell you what's going to happen, and you go, oh, so this is going to happen, I don't have to put any work into it. No, they're telling you this is going to happen based on the path that you're on, but you still have to work for it.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you saying that, because I do readings for people, and the way that it started for me was it was people that were attracted to me. Yeah. And so the people that were attracted to me were on a similar path as me. So all of the readings would be just like what you're saying, like, well, this is like, I feel like you're being called to join this support group or to get this book. But then I had joined a company for a while. And when I was a part of the company, the calls were like, am I going to get the deal for the house? Am I going to get, and I was thrown. So I had to stop and start saying to people, I'm not a fortune teller. And I'm still looking for a different proper term to do it, because the readings that I do that work one-on-one with people are exactly with what you're talking about. It's about where is the next step for your soul's development that's for your highest good. Right. Because really nobody can tell the fortune, because at any given moment we have our free will about whether or not we're going to continue the path that we're currently on, or whether we're going to veer off. And I find that somebody who does true readings are going to say, just like what you said, like where you are at right now, here's where you're being called for your next highest good step. If you don't take it, you may end up experiencing some of this unpleasantness, but not saying, oh, well, I see, you're going to get a yellow house, and you're going to have 2 cars and a kid named Bobby. Like, that's...
Well, and it's not to take away, people can do that, but at the same time, there is free will involved. And I think that's something that stumbled me up like 4 years ago. I was told this is going to happen, and I helped that person to it, that I knew that this was going to happen because that's what I was told. While she was right on many things, there was also free will involved. There was also free will in somebody else that attributed to it not happening. And I can look back now and go, oh, thank God it didn't happen. But do the inner work. Anchor into love. Anchor into love. Yes. That all that you speak, how you think, how your actions, everything, and we're all human, and we're all gonna mess up too. I mean, but if your overall intent is love, that's gonna go a long way. God put it there for us to tap into, to co-create, to create our life. He gave us the opening of free will for us to go, I created all this for you. Now I'm leaving this opening, so that's where the light can come shine in, so you can see yourself, know what you want, and you can create from what your truth is.
Yes.
That's what it is, and that's what sacred uprising is. That is, then it's one of the reasons why I adore you and the words that you speak and the way that you articulate, because when somebody has what in Judaism is called hast, you recognize it in another, it in another, and that person is creating something that is of essence and that it is divine from the fountain of love, from the divine's love. And that's how you create.
Yes, and when it's based in the actual divine love, and I liked how you said too that the human words, they don't do it justice. I really overlooked the power of love for such a long time because it was such an easy word. Like I wish I could have a deeper word to express it. But when it's in that vibration of that authentic divine love, you can't be steered wrong.
No. Yeah. And that was, Candice, that was actually my awakening. I was running a group of victims, and I started saying to my admins, everything that we say has to come from a point of love. And I didn't know why I was saying it, but I was obsessed with it. Now I know when I'm obsessed with something, it's a message.
Yes.
But I was obsessed with it, and that's when a few months later, my heart chakra burst open, and that was the beginning of my journey. And everything starts at the point of love, not this conditional love, because that's not love. Not in the word love, because we hear, oh, he loves you, but he's not ready for you, or she loves you, but she can't be faithful. Yes. It's her work that that's not love. It's just it's not. Love doesn't need, and Courtney Walsh, one of our other speakers, says this: love doesn't need any other doesn't need any adjectives. It's just love. And the closest human word that I've been able to compare it with is wholeness. And wholeness also is more of a feel. So when I have been so blessed to be in the presence of the Creator, I have been brought to my knees sobbing, not because I feel dirty in front of him, but because the wholeness is so great I can't even stand. It brings me down to my core, and it transforms everything, my DNA, my cells. It transforms everything. So, and that's what it is. It's wholeness. It's complete. And these words, and it's so and I don't know if you probably have the same issue, is that the more we go on this spiritual journey, the less words ridiculous, because it doesn't describe it.
Yes.
It's a feeling.
Yeah, because yes, exactly. And I remember one of my teachers saying, once you can define it, you've lost it.
You lost it. Yes. And that's why in Judaism, there's no word for God. There's none. In fact, even in here, when they say, they go G-D, just so people know what they're referring to, but they won't even say it, because once you define it, you lose it. Just like love, once you define it, you lose it. So, but you can't feel those unless you're alone, unless you're being mindful, unless you're in those quiet moments. That's when we have those feelings, and that's when God spoke to me 4 years ago, and I was standing at a mountain, and I now call it God's Mountain here in Las Vegas. And he said, the truth is in the silence. It's all was said to me. And I didn't know what it meant. I'm like, the truth is in the silence. And there's many different levels of definition for that. But now where I'm at in my journey, the truth is in the silence, because that's where all wisdom is. That's where the universe is, in the silence. And we have so many things on this earth. We have technology. We have the billboards. We have all these things being thrown at us that keep our mind going. That's why people have such a hard time silencing their minds. But it's just another way to keep us separate. It's just part. Actually, I think you might, I want to say this with you on here. I haven't even said this on these videos, but for some reason I'm being led to say this. I was told what really happened in the Garden of Eden. And this came several weeks ago. And it wasn't Eve biting an apple. Everything in the Bible is symbolism. The apple actually stands for the divine feminine. And it was then she took a bite, realizing she was separate from Adam, and she took in her divine feminine and realized they were separate. And they were in this place of the Garden of Eden that was wholeness. It was all that
Yes.
they were one. And then she had to throw on her clothes because she realized she was different from him. So the sin of the world, if we want to call it sin, I don't like that term, but the sin
No.
that was committed, we realized we weren't one with God, that we were the drop of the ocean instead of the ocean.
Yes.
That we weren't the bonfire, but we were the spark. That we are separate. Yes. And right now, not just a United States, but as a collective of this earth that we live on, we're finding that it is separateness that is destroying this world. It is us, and that's what it is. And before I had this revelation a few weeks ago, before my guides told me, I was informed like a year or two ago that everything, that we are one. And when my guides told me to keep posting "we are one," that one was supposed to be capitalized, and I didn't know why, but now I know, because one is wholeness. One is the creator. One is the infinite, all that is, the I am. That's what one is.
Yes, and that's our return to the garden, is to return to that state of understanding the wholeness. Yes. And when I was when my path started, it started in the founts of mysticism, and it was Christian mysticism. And one of the first concepts that was so big for me that I was taught was that in the very beginning of the Bible, when it says there's one begotten Son, that the message wasn't that God up high gave birth to one man. It's that there is one begotten Son, and that is all of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's where, and you're exactly right, because and I've been told by God, you are a daughter of God. And at the time I was like, what? That's like Jesus? But no, it's that it's Christ consciousness is the bridge to oneness. There's a consciousness of oneness. And that is where the new earth, the kingdom of heaven is in oneness. The streets of gold, that's not what you think it is. The gold has to do with the abundance of the consciousness of oneness
that lives within us, which is what the Christ taught us. I wish I could find it. It's in one of the New Testament ones, but I remember reading the line and it blew me away. I wrote it down somewhere. I don't have the books, but I was just like, they don't teach this in the churches. But it's a line about Jesus, and it says, being a man who thought it not robbery to be equal to God.
Yes.
And it was the concept of, and it's like, and that's, we've been taught, for whatever the reason was, that it was some sort of a sin or a grave insult to claim our divine wholeness and our divine sonship or daughtership. And that's what this idea is that we are all that one. And in my, from what my belief system is that Christ, once that Christ attained that consciousness, that he made it available for all of us to tap into. Because once one attains something, it becomes available for all of us.
Yep. Right, Lori. Yes, Lori.
Yeah. So then we can all attain that, and then we all come back to, and that's, the other thing they said is that, he could have fully ascended into that one source self, but kept his consciousness around here until we all remerged back to that one divine self and go back to the garden.
Yeah. Absolutely. In fact, when God told me that I could do that, the goal was love. That's the mission. But however you choose to do it was up to you. And he said, even as Jesus chose, that the cross was his mission. So we all get to choose. And when Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, that's not interpreted correctly. He was saying, look at me as an example for the way, the truth, and the life. Look at me as an example.
Yes. And the words I am were one of the forms of God's name. I am that I am, that came to Moses in the burning bush. So I am the way, the truth, and the life. This God essence, the way, the truth, and the life.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh, we're gonna have so much fun doing these videos.
I know, I love this.
But this is the magic of creation. This is the magic of creation, is to go outside of your boxes that have isolated you for so long. That those lines that your traditional beliefs, right, Lori? Your traditional beliefs taught you to color within to go, no, I have the whole page to cover in. I have the whole universe to color in. It's all there to lead you and to allow for you. That's how much the Creator loves you. He's saying, I've created all of this for you. Now you get to create the rest. Go do it. I gave you the blueprint. I gave you the magic. Go do it and create whatever it is you want. But you have to, your words, your actions, your vibrations have to match what it is you want.
Yes.
All has to match. So if your words say one thing, but nothing matches with it, that's love without motion. It's not going to happen. The vibration, the words, the mindset, the heart intent, all of it's got to match. And when you align it all, you have become one.
Yes. Beautiful. Wow. Yes.
Oh, that's so good. So I'm so excited that you were here to help inspire this, and your wisdom, Candise, is magic, and I feel like we came together for just a divine purpose to take calling in the one into a whole new level of this, how we can create. You're the creators of your life. Do it. It's for you. Yes. If you're living in a vibration where the world is happening to you, it's because you're not creating what you deserve. You don't have to just be a balloon in the air. You can be the plane going to a destination saying, this is where I'm going. But I'm going to allow for the universe to give me even more than I could ever dream of having.
Yes, and there's it's like we were saying with the words, there's an inner state, and it's hard for me to be able to put words to it with other people when I'm sharing, but there is an inner state where you just know, there is a sense when you know when that dedication and that intention has been made, where it's like, there is nothing that is going to sway me from this. And even if there's appearances that seem like they are hopeless, or there's circumstances that seem sad, or I can't even fathom how this is going to change, when that thing happens inside where you say, it doesn't matter if I never see the change outside, I know that in my heart, I have now made that decision that I am dedicated to love, and I will be open to however that shows up. That inner dedication that's there, that is what turns on the energy. That's I try to say to people, there's a difference between reciting words in your mind and saying, please God, I want this, and being in your heart open and saying, this is what I have given my life for now. This is it. Here I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And it even goes to prayer. In fact, Candise, you and I need to talk afterwards. But even with prayer, when I go into my heart space and pray, I will have answers to my prayers within 24 hours without fail. If I'm praying from here, not going to get answered. So it's really the heart is where everything flows biblically in every religion, every culture. Everybody teaches this. Everything flows from the heart. If you want to create magic, create it right here in love.
Yes.
I thank you so much for being part of this and staying on as we continue talking about it. I so appreciate you.
Thank you. This was great. I love having somebody to talk to about this.
I know.
So thank you.
You need to come next week when I continue this, so we can.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
I would love to.
So, Uprisers, I'm so glad for those. Thank you for watching this. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a lot of people that watch us on there. Just look for the P&E for Sacred Uprising. And just a reminder, our conference is September 18th, 19th, and 20th outside of Santa Cruz, California. So until we have no videos next week, I just looked at my show producer. We have no videos tomorrow, but we'll be back on Tuesday with more videos. So until then, have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Bye.